The rain-slicked streets of Chicago blurred past the taxi window as Mark Thompson gripped the steering wheel tighter, his knuckles white against the black leather. He wasn't driving. He was fleeing from the life he'd built, from the lies that had finally caught up. But nothing prepared him for the phone call that shattered the silence. "Dad, I know about you and John. How could you betray Mom like this?" Mark's heart plummeted. His son, Jake, the boy he'd raised as his own since marrying Linda 10 years ago, had uncovered the truth. It wasn't just an affair. It was a forbidden love that had simmered in secrecy for months, pulling Mark into a whirlwind of guilt and desire he never imagined. As the taxi halted at the airport, Mark realized this was no escape. It was the beginning of a reckoning that would force him to confront the man he truly was. Mark had always prided himself on being the pillar of his family. A successful architect in his mid-40s, he designed sleek high-rises that pierced the Chicago skyline, symbols of stability and ambition. His marriage to Linda was comfortable, if not passionate, a second chance after his first wife's passing. Jake, Linda's son from her previous marriage, had been 8 when Mark entered their lives. He'd stepped into the role of father with ease, coaching little league games and attending parent-teacher conferences. But beneath the facade, Mark harbored a restlessness he couldn't name. It started innocently enough. John Rivera, Jake's best friend since high school, was a constant presence in their home. At 22, John was vibrant and unapologetic, studying graphic design at the Art Institute of Chicago. His laughter filled the rooms, a stark contrast to the quiet dinners Mark shared with Linda. One evening, while Jake was out with friends, John lingered after helping with a project. They talked late into the night, about dreams, failures, the weight of expectations. Mark felt seen in a way he hadn't in years. As weeks turned to months, those conversations deepened. John confessed his struggles with coming out to his conservative family, the fear of rejection gnawing at him. Mark listened, offering advice drawn from his own buried doubts. He'd never acted on the fleeting attractions he'd felt toward men in his youth, dismissing them as phases. But with John, it was different. A brush of hands while passing a coffee mug, a shared glance during a family barbecue. These moments ignited something primal. The first kiss happened in the garage, after a heated argument about Jake's future. John had stormed in, frustrated that Jake was dropping out of college. Mark tried to calm him, but emotions boiled over. Their lips met in a rush of confusion and clarity. Mark pulled away, horrified, but the damage was done. "This can't happen," he whispered. Yet it did, again and again in stolen moments. A quick embrace in the office, a late-night text leading to a motel room on the outskirts of town. Guilt became Mark's constant companion. He loved Linda, or at least the life they'd built. She was kind, supportive, the mother Jake needed. But the deception ate at him. He rationalized it. John was an adult, consenting. It wasn't hurting anyone if no one knew. But deep down, he knew it was a lie. Society's judgments loomed large, whispers of midlife crisis, family destroyer. And what about Jake? The boy idolized him. Jake's discovery came like a thunderclap. He'd borrowed Mark's phone to check directions and stumbled upon a text thread filled with incriminating messages. The confrontation was brutal. "You're disgusting," Jake spat over the phone. "Mom deserves better." Mark begged for understanding, but Jake hung up, leaving Mark adrift in the airport lounge. By the time Mark boarded the plane to New York for a supposed business trip, his world was unraveling. Linda called next, her voice trembling. "Jake told me everything. How could you?" She didn't yell. Her quiet devastation cut deeper. Mark mumbled apologies, promises to explain, but she ended the call with, "Don't come home." In New York, Mark holed up in a hotel, replaying the events. He texted John, "It's over. Jake knows." John's response was immediate. "We need to talk. I'm coming." Against his better judgment, Mark agreed. When John arrived, disheveled from the red-eye flight, the room filled with tension. "I love you," John said, eyes pleading. "We can make this work." But Mark shook his head. "At what cost? I've destroyed my family." They argued for hours about honesty, about the pain of hiding. John pushed for them to come clean, to build something real. Mark resisted, torn between his heart and his duties. In the end, they parted with a bittersweet embrace, John leaving with a promise to wait. Back in Chicago, the fallout intensified. Linda filed for divorce, citing irreconcilable differences to spare public humiliation. Jake refused to speak to Mark, moving in with friends. The neighborhood buzzed with rumors. Colleagues whispered behind his back. Mark's firm lost a major client, the owner uncomfortable with the scandal. Amid the chaos, Mark sought therapy. Dr. Ellis, a no-nonsense psychologist, challenged him. "You've lived a lie for years. What are you afraid of?" Sessions unearthed buried traumas, his father's disapproval, societal pressures to conform. Mark realized his marriage had been a shield against his true self. One evening, Jake showed up unannounced at Mark's new apartment. "Why, John?" he demanded. Mark explained, haltingly, about his suppressed identity, the unexpected connection. Jake listened, anger giving way to confusion. "I thought you were straight. Happy." "I thought so too," Mark admitted. "But love doesn't follow rules." Their conversation stretched into the night, bridging some gaps but leaving wounds raw. Jake confessed his own fears of losing the only father he'd known. Mark promised to earn back trust one step at a time. As months passed, Mark navigated his new reality. He came out to close friends, facing a mix of support and rejection. John remained a distant figure, their paths crossing occasionally at mutual events. The pull was strong, but Mark focused on healing. Yet temptation lingered. At a gallery opening, they met by chance. John's eyes held the same fire. "Have you moved on?" he asked. Mark hesitated. "I'm trying." That night, they talked until dawn, rekindling old flames. But dawn brought clarity. "We can't," Mark said. "Not like this." John nodded, tears in his eyes. "Then fight for us the right way." Mark returned home, resolved. He called Linda, apologizing sincerely. She forgave in her way, wishing him well. With Jake, progress was slow but steady, shared coffees, honest talks. The decision weighed on Mark like an anchor. Weeks after the gallery encounter, he found himself dialing John's number, his finger hovering over call. Society's gaze felt omnipresent. In the judgmental stares at work, the hushed conversations at family gatherings. Chicago, for all its progressiveness, still harbored pockets of intolerance, especially in his affluent suburb where traditional values reigned. Mark's therapy sessions intensified. Dr. Ellis probed deeper. "What price are you willing to pay for authenticity?" Mark recounted his childhood in rural Illinois, where different meant ostracism. His father, a stern factory worker, had drilled in the mantra, "Be a man, provide, protect." Coming out now felt like betraying that legacy. Meanwhile, John faced his own battles. His parents, devout Catholics from a tight-knit Hispanic community, had always emphasized family honor. Coming out to them last year had been met with tears and prayers, but tentative acceptance. Now, entangled with an older, married man, complicated everything. John's friends warned him, "He's using you to figure himself out. You'll get hurt." But John believed in Mark. Their connection transcended age and circumstance. It was intellectual, emotional, profound. He pushed Mark via texts. "We deserve happiness. Stop hiding." The turning point came at Jake's college graduation. Mark attended, awkward in the sea of proud parents. Linda was there with her new boyfriend, cordial but distant. Jake, cap and gown flowing, hugged Mark tightly. "Thanks for coming, Dad." After the ceremony, John appeared, invited by Jake as a friend. The air crackled with unspoken tension. Later, at the reception, Mark pulled John aside. "I can't keep pretending." They left together, driving to a quiet park overlooking Lake Michigan. Under the setting sun, Mark confessed, "I want to try, for us." Their relationship blossomed in secrecy at first, but Mark knew it couldn't last. He confided in a trusted colleague, who surprised him with support, Life's too short for regrets. Emboldened, Mark updated his social media, posting a photo with John, subtle but clear. The backlash was swift. His sister, Evelyn, called in outrage. What about the kids? Jake's confused enough. Extended family gatherings turned frosty. At work, a promotion stalled. Whispers of instability circulated. Jake struggled most. It's weird, Dad. John was my buddy. They argued fiercely about betrayal, loyalty. Jake accused Mark of selfishness. You blew up our family for what? A fling? It's not a fling, Mark retorted. It's who I am. Therapy helped Jake process. He attended a session with Mark, airing grievances. I feel like I lost my best friend and my dad. Mark listened, validating his pain. Slowly, Jake softened, seeing Mark's humanity. But external pressures mounted. John's family learned through gossip. His mother confronted him. This man is twice your age. What about your future? John defended their love, but the strain showed. He lost sleep, grades slipped. One night, after a heated family dinner where slurs were thinly veiled, John broke down. Is this worth it? He asked Mark. Mark held him. We'll fight through. Yet doubt crept in. Mark's finances suffered from the divorce. Alimony and child support drained him. He considered relocating, starting fresh. But that meant uprooting John. A crisis hit when Jake relapsed into old habits. Partying, skipping classes, blaming the family drama. He confronted Mark. This is your fault. Mark felt the weight of his choices, questioning if happiness justified the pain. In a moment of weakness, Mark suggested a break. Maybe we're rushing. John recoiled. Hurt. You're running again. They separated for weeks, each in agony. Mark threw himself into work, designing a community center for LGBTQ youth, a way to atone. John focused on art, channeling emotions into poignant pieces. Reconciliation came unexpectedly. At the center's groundbreaking, John showed up. I miss you, he said. Mark pulled him close. Me too. They recommitted, this time with boundaries. Couples therapy addressed age gaps, power dynamics. Mark worked on transparency with Jake, who gradually accepted John as family. But peace was fragile. An anonymous tip to Mark's firm alleged impropriety, threatening his job. Paranoia set in. Who betrayed them? Investigating, Mark suspected Evelyn, fueled by her conservative views. Confronting her led to a blowout. You're destroying our name, she yelled. Mark stood firm. This is my life. The incident forced a choice. Sue for defamation or let it go. Mark chose peace, but the scar remained. Adversity forged their resolve, but new storms brewed. Mark's job hung by a thread after the anonymous complaint. HR investigated, finding no wrongdoing, but the damage lingered. Colleagues distanced themselves, projects reassigned. Perception matters, his boss said cryptically. Financial strain pushed Mark to freelance, working late nights. John supported him, taking a part-time job while finishing school. Their apartment, a cozy loft in Wicker Park, became a sanctuary. Evenings were spent cooking, debating politics, sharing dreams. But intimacy brought vulnerability. Mark feared losing it all again. Jake's acceptance grew. He visited often, bonding with John over video games like old times. It's weird, but I'm happy for you, Jake admitted one day. Mark's heart swelled, a small victory. Yet societal prejudices intruded. At a pride event, they faced hecklers. Go home, freaks, one shouted. John shrugged it off, but Mark seethed, recalling his own internalized shame. Deeper conflicts arose from moral dilemmas. Mark grappled with his role as a father figure. Was he setting a bad example for Jake? Linda, now amicable, shared concerns. Jake's impressionable. Mark defended. Teaching him love is love. John's side brought ethical quandaries. His younger brother, Miguel, idolized him but struggled with the news. Does this mean I'm gay too? Miguel asked innocently. John reassured him, but the question highlighted ripple effects. A major confrontation erupted at a family reunion in the suburbs. Evelyn hosted, inviting Mark reluctantly. Tensions simmered. Uncles muttered about lifestyle choices. When John arrived, whispers turned to outright hostility. "This is a family event," an aunt sneered. Mark snapped. "He is family." The argument escalated, Evelyn accusing Mark of moral decay. "You've shamed us all." Hurt, Mark and John left, Jake following in solidarity. "I'm with you, Dad." The drive home was silent, each processing the rejection. John broke it. "Maybe we should elope, start over elsewhere." Mark considered it, California perhaps more accepting. But roots ran deep. Leaving meant abandoning Jake. Days later, betrayal struck. Jake confessed. "I was the one who tipped off your work. I was angry." Shock rippled through Mark. "Why?" "I thought it'd make you stop," Jake sobbed. "Force you back to normal." The revelation shattered trust. Mark felt betrayed by the son he'd sacrificed for. "You could have ruined my career," they yelled, accusations flying. John mediated. "He's a kid, scared." Therapy mended fences, but scars formed. Jake apologized profusely, vowing to make amends. Mark forgave, but wariness lingered. Amid this, John received a job offer in New York, his dream gig at a top design firm. "It's temporary," he said, but Mark saw the excitement. "Go," Mark encouraged, hiding his fear. Separation tested them. Video calls sustained, but distance amplified doubts. Mark questioned if their age difference doomed them. John thriving in youth, him aging into irrelevance. A weekend visit turned pivotal. In New York, they explored the city, rekindling passion. But John confessed temptations. "Guys hit on me. I ignore." But Mark's jealousy flared. "Do you want out?" "No," John insisted. "But we need commitment." Back in Chicago, Mark proposed moving together. "Let's build a life." John agreed, but conditions applied. Full disclosure to all. Mark dreaded it but complied, coming out to remaining family, facing more fallout. His father, elderly and frail, reacted poorly. "I didn't raise you this way." The call ended in tears. Professional redemption came via the community center. Its opening drew praise, restoring Mark's reputation. A speech about authenticity earned applause. Yet personal costs mounted. Linda remarried. Jake thrived but distanced himself slightly. Mark pondered the trade-offs. High drama peaked when John's ex, a jealous former flame, spread rumors online, accusing Mark of predation. Social media exploded. Threats poured in. They lawyered up, proving falsehoods. The ordeal bonded them, but exhausted. As dust settled, Mark reflected. Was love worth the war? The war's toll manifested in unexpected ways. Mark developed anxiety, nights plagued by what-ifs. Therapy helped, but the mirror showed a man aged beyond his years. Gray hairs multiplying, lines etching deeper. John, resilient, pushed forward. His New York stint ended. He returned to Chicago, job in hand. They moved to a house in the suburbs, symbolizing commitment. Neighbors were mixed, some welcoming, others aloof. Integration brought new challenges. At block parties, questions arose. How'd you meet? Truth elicited awkward silences. Mark learned to navigate, turning discomfort into advocacy. Jake's life intertwined. He dated a girl, bringing her home. "Meet my dads," he joked, easing tension. Mark appreciated the gesture, but sensed underlying strain. Moral ambiguities deepened. Mark questioned his initial deception. Was it excusable? Dr. Ellis challenged. Deceit erodes trust. Own it. John faced internal conflict. His faith clashed with his lifestyle. Church visits dwindled. "God loves me," he affirmed, but doubt lingered. A turning point. John's father suffered a heart attack. Rushing to the hospital, family reunited. His mother pulled Mark aside. "Thank you for making him happy." Acceptance, hard won. But not all mended. Evelyn cut ties permanently, a loss Mark mourned. Professional highs balanced lows. Mark's firm promoted him, valuing his resilience. He mentored young LGBTQ architects, finding purpose. Yet betrayal's shadow loomed. When Jake announced his engagement, planning began. "Will you walk me down the aisle?" Jake asked Mark. Honored, Mark agreed. But John's inclusion sparked debate. Jake's fiancée, from a conservative family, hesitated. "My parents," Mark advocated. "He's part of us." The wedding approached, tension building. Rehearsal dinner erupted when her father objected. "This isn't natural." Mark defended fiercely, but Jake wavered, fearing ruin. In private, Jake confessed, "Maybe keep it low-key." Hurt, Mark considered bowing out. John urged, "Fight for inclusion." The day arrived. At the altar, Mark stood proud, John beside. When objections arose subtly, Mark spoke, "Love unites us." The ceremony proceeded, a triumph amid discord. Post-wedding, reflections hit. Mark realized the costs. Lost relationships, emotional scars. But gains, authenticity, love. One evening, John proposed, "Marry me." Mark accepted, joy overwhelming. Planning their wedding, obstacles arose. Venue denials due to bias. Family absences. They persevered, opting for intimate. Vows exchanged. Rings slipped on. Honeymoon in Hawaii brought bliss, but reality awaited. Back home, a job offer for John in LA tempted. "Better opportunities," he said. Mark feared separation. "Go if you must." John chose to stay. "You're my home." The decision solidified them, but Mark pondered long-term sacrifices. As years blurred, Jake had kids, calling Mark grandpa. Acceptance normalized. Yet Mark questioned, had his choices been ethical? Normalization brought subtle shifts. Mark and John's life settled into routine, morning coffees, evening walks along the lakefront. Mark's career stabilized. John's flourished in freelance. They volunteered at the community center, guiding others through similar storms. But echoes of past conflicts resurfaced. Jake's child asked innocent questions. Why two grandpas? Explanations fostered openness, but reminded Mark of ongoing battles. Societal progress helped. Laws evolved, attitudes softened. Yet pockets of resistance persisted. A local ballot on LGBTQ rights divided the community. Mark campaigned tirelessly. Personal growth continued. Mark wrote a memoir anonymously, processing traumas. Feedback poured in, readers relating, criticizing. John's art gained recognition, exhibitions showcasing themes of identity and love. One piece, depicting their journey, stirred controversy. Praised by some, condemned by others. A major test. Evelyn reached out after years, her husband ill. "I miss my brother," she said. Reunion was tentative. Over coffee, apologies exchanged. "I was wrong," she admitted. Healing began, fragile but real. Jake's family thrived. He confided, "Your courage inspired me." Mark reflected on the path. Deception's price, authenticity's reward. High drama revisited when John's health scare. A minor surgery, forced vulnerability. In the hospital, Mark held his hand, vowing eternity. Recovery strengthened bonds. They traveled, exploring the world unapologetically. Yet moral quandaries lingered. Had Mark's affair been justifiable? Did ends excuse means? In quiet moments, Mark debated internally. The pain inflicted versus joy gained. Their story became a beacon for others, speaking at events, sharing lessons. As twilight years approached, Mark looked back without regret. Love had prevailed, but at great cost. The narrative closes not with resolution, but introspection. Was Mark's pursuit of personal truth ultimately selfish, or a necessary act of liberation that benefited those around him in the long run?